Hello and welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and welcome to the player ratings video for Everton's 3-1 win away at Fulham. I've just recorded the match reaction to this result, expressing my uh, shock and pleasure at such a result. So make sure you go and check that one out as well as this video. But yeah, it's going to be a similar theme throughout this video, I'm sure, because I was I really wasn't feeling confident ahead of this one at all. Um, in the days leading up to it, and even more so once the starting lineup was announced. But fair play, there's quite a few players who have proved me wrong today, and obviously it doesn't really change the overall thought of them. Like I say, it's just one game, but I think it was a game that we really grew into, uh, and a lot of players who probably didn't start as well as they could have. Um, their performances really improved, and overall it was a really hard fought, well earned team victory, I thought. So yeah, really pleasing 3 points on the road. But yeah, jumping into the player ratings straight away and starting with Jordan Pickford, who once again is going to get a very high rating here. Um, has played a major hand in us staying in this game. First half when we were really under the cosh, Fulham were getting shots away, some on target, some off target, and with the exception of the header from point blank range that our defenders probably should have done better with, all things told. Pickford was equal to anything that Fulham threw at him. And you look at that one in the second half in particular, where Harry Wilson tries to lift it over him and Pickford manages to get a strong hand on it, tip it away, does his shouldering in the process. And it's we've been saying it for so long, so many times, but that's just all. That's what Jordan Pickford does, and he earns us so many points by himself throughout the season. Uh, and with Aberdeen's name sung by the away end throughout the match, it's about time he got a chant. He's really deserved one for a very long time. So yeah, a really great day for Jordan Pickford. I think he has to have an 8 if I'm being honest. So yeah, an 8 for Jordan Pickford. Then moving on to the defence, I've actually given every member of the defence that started here a 7. Ashley Young, of course, coming back into the side at the expense of Nathan Patterson, who has come in and hasn't really done very well, has he? And it's someone that a large portion of our fan base is always calling to be given more of a chance. Been here 3 years now, and it's just never really clicked for him. But I don't know. You do think after 3 years that we should probably be seeing a little more from him now, if we're being brutally honest. So, but yeah, I thought Ashley Young came in and again struggled a little bit early on. Fulham were attacking down the left an awful lot, with Young and Michael Keane over there, not fully match sharp, and weaker options than what we're used to having there. They were clearly trying to exploit that left flank as much as possible, and we struggled with it a little bit, but I thought we after a while we were dealing with it very well and quelling any threat that Fulham had for most of the game and so yeah, a really solid performance from Ashley Young, who I'd make the case I'd rather have here next season than Nathan Patterson. As crazy as it sounds, he's going to be 40 in September, I believe. But Nathan Patterson's a player we can get a fee for. Maybe probably not an amazing fee, but still a young player who could still come good somewhere else. Just doesn't seem like it's going to happen for him at Everton, if I'm being honest. So, but that's obviously a story for another video. So yeah, a 7 for Ashley Young, and then Michael Keane. Again, won't have been a happy sight for most Evertonians seeing his name in the starting lineup today, but holding our hands up where credit's due. Um, I thought he had a really solid game today. It's one of them where you didn't really notice him too much, which is always a very good sign, I think, for a centre back. Obviously gets the goal, really good header. One could argue doing more for us offensively than defensively, but given his horror show against Man City a few weeks ago, which I think a lot of us were really hoping was going to be his last outing in an Everton shirt. Obviously, it was a forced change today with O'Brien being out, but fair play to Michael Keane for dusting himself down today and putting in a solid performance and scoring a really important goal for us. You've got to give credit where it's due sometimes, and yeah, a seven for him as well. And then Brantford next to him, I don't really have too much to say about it. Just another, a solid performance from Brantford that we have become accustomed to in his 2 years in the Everton first team now, and yeah, just a really solid performance from him. Really, that's all I really have to say about that. And then Mikalenko completing the back line. Probably not his best game. You could probably argue he should do more for the goal. I sympathise with him a little bit. It's a difficult situation that he finds himself in. Because once that ball's lifted in, Jimenez is always going to be favourite to get to it. But you could maybe argue that Mikalenko should do more to prevent the striker from getting to the ball. But he almost makes up for that really with the goal that he gets right before half time. A really important goal. Obviously, not the most glamorous goal of his or anyone's career, but I think it shows the merits of just having a dig sometimes, and I think that's something that we've kind of lost our way a little bit with under Moyes, and for all Dyche's faults, I think with how we used to play, we used to, if we had a chance to have a shot, we'd usually take it, whereas we don't seem to do that too much anymore. So fair play to Mikalenko. And then, he was involved in the penalty controversy right at the end of the game. I thought that was pretty harsh on him, to be honest. At first glance, I could see why VAR were looking at it so intensely, but he's so close to the ball. I don't really know what he's meant to do. He's almost actually trying to move his arm out of the way more than anything. It's not like he sticks it up or anything like that. It's a very natural position, I think, that it's in. And like I say, with it being at such point blank range, if it's any further, as I say, he probably moves it out of the way in time. So I don't really think that was very fair. And more to the point, this was in like the sixth added minute of a game that really shouldn't have had 6 minutes added onto it. But with it being us in the lead, of course, that was always going to be the case. Referee doing anything to try and get Fulham back into the game. In all fairness, I actually thought the referee had a very good game. On a side note, and fair play to him as well for sticking to his guns when going over to the VAR screen. There's not many referees in this league who do that. But yeah, I digress. And yeah, a seven for Mikalenko completing the defence, who all got a seven rating. Then moving into the midfield, James Garner, again, another one who's been dividing opinion, particularly on this channel, indeed, on this very edition of this ratings video last week, in fairness. I think for his doubters, um, this game probably adds more weight to their argument than the other one, if I'm being brutally honest. Um, he's still a player for me that I see quite a bit of potential in, and I can see what he offers us most weeks, but today was probably not his best game. Kind of passed him by a little bit. I think we were struggling a little bit with the midfield battle in the first half, and that improved. And don't get me wrong, he won a few important tackles here and there, but wasn't really involved at either end. To be honest, it was one of those games where, as people like to describe him quite a lot. To be fair, he was a bit of a passenger, if I'm being brutally honest. But no, by no means a horror show. Just a standard six rating for me, I think. But then next to him, Idrissa Gueye. Again, like I say, he's not quite been as dominant in the midfield as he was for a period just a few weeks ago. But I still thought he had a solid game today and helped to, as I say, weather that storm that we were under for the first quarter of the game, and was able to win some tackles that led to transitions and start. Um, and allowed us to get more of a grip on the game, helped with the press and all that. So I'll give him a seven. I feel a little bit harsh for that, if I'm being perfectly honest, because I don't really think he had too much more of an impact than James Garner did next to him. If I'm being honest, I think they kind of had a shared duty today, which they both did pretty well. But Idrissa Gueye is Idrissa Gueye, I guess. And then moving up the pitch, Jack Harrison again, one of them who we probably don't want to be seeing in an Everton shirt for too much longer, but needs must when it's very clear that Moyes is trying to protect McNeil and die as much as possible. They're clearly struggling with fitness, despite I think McNeil in particular having a very good game last week. But yeah, Jack Harrison was given the start today. Didn't really make too much of an impact, so I'll give him a standard six again. But I will just say that I think it's been very clear in the last few weeks he's been told to trust his right foot more, and like I say, it's come a little bit too late. I wish Dyche had had this conversation with him a lot earlier on in his Everton career because it does seem to be making him a bit more effective on that right hand side because his right foot's it's not as bad as he seemed to make it out to be fair, and he's trusting himself to cross it in a bit more and go ahead on that right foot, which is kind of what a right winger has to be doing, really. It's something that McNeil in particular on that side really struggles to do. Um, but yeah, like I say, he didn't really have too much chance to get involved today, and obviously got hooked before the hour mark. Before the game, I think really was starting to tip in our favour, to be fair to him. So, yeah, that's a six for Jack Harrison. Then next to him in Decore, again, probably the divisive figure at the moment, given his quotes on the Ben Foster podcast. But I think today, and I think this is probably going to be the inflammatory bit of this week's video, but I think today illustrates just what Decore offers us, get with our press, and with our solidity in midfield. And I'll be honest, I don't think that game turns around like it does if Decore is not on the pitch. And people will argue that once we take the lead, Decore is not on the pitch by that point. We've made the changes by then, which did help to change the game in fairness. But I don't think, he gets the assist for the equaliser. Obviously, it's not the most like spectacular assist of all time, but it's an assist. And I think the way he led the press and, as I say, makes us solid in midfield and makes it harder for teams to just pass through us. I really think is important to us, and I do think it's something that we really miss. I think we missed it last weekend against Ipswich when he didn't start. Um, so it worries me that I think the more it wears on, I'm not entirely sure if he's going to be here next season. I think, by the sounds of it, the majority of our fans would probably be happy with that outcome, especially if, as I say, with his wage demands that he's made very public this week. But I do think he's a lot more important to our team than a lot of people realise. So that worries me a tiny bit. Hopefully, um, we're aware of that and it will be on high on the list of priorities this summer to get someone in who can do that, do a similar job to him if indeed he does go. But yeah, I'm going to give him a seven, and again, that might divide some opinion. We'll wait and see. And then Charlie Alcaraz next to him, again, not in his favoured position. He's clearly a lot more effective in the middle than out wide, but he's able to tuck in a bit more. Um, and I thought he had a really good game today, to be honest. I think his movement's very good. He's very positive when he gets on the ball, quick off the mark, good dribbler, good passer. Um, I'm a really big fan of him, and I wish we'd seen a bit more of him during this loan spell. Hopefully, it's going to be made permanent. It would appear, with him starting the last two games, that he's finally over whatever Moyes wasn't seeing him or whatever in his loan deal was preventing us from starting him. Like I say, we're not entirely sure what the full truth behind that is, but hopefully he'll be here next season because I really like the player. He got a very good assist today. Um, I'll be honest, I was shouting at the TV for him to keep running with it rather than releasing the ball to Better when he did. But fair play to him. He proved me very wrong with that. It was a really good pass, got the ball away very quickly, and obviously Better takes the finish away. So yeah, a solid seven for Charlie Alcaraz today. And then speaking of Better, um, I thought it was another very good game from him as well. And uh, 2-2 for him again. He was struggling a bit after that purple patch that he had a few weeks ago, struggling a bit. But and was out of the team for a bit as well, with Brozier getting a nod for a couple of games. But he's starting for us again and he's scoring for us again. And it was a really good goal from him as well. Like, as I say, a really well taken goal, first time shot, catches the keeper off guard. You could probably argue the keeper should do better with it, but I think he's just caught off guard by Better taking it first time from the position and from the angle that he does. And Beto in particular is one that I thought really started this game poorly. I don't think he was playing. I say whether it was instructions or whatever, but I don't think he was playing to his strengths for the first like third of the game or whatever. He was trying to do too much of the hold up play, like he was under Dyche, which is just not his game. He's better when he's racing onto balls, being aggressive, closing down. And once he started to do that, he became a lot more effective and really bullied the Fulham defence at times. I thought he had a really really solid game, and I'll give him an eight to be honest. And I'm really hoping that he continues to ride this wave of confidence. And I could see him maybe bagging one or two on Sunday, fingers crossed, sending off Goodison in the way we all want. But yeah, that rounds off the starting lineup. I'll just briefly mention some of the subs. I thought Dwight McNeil came on and completely changed the game. Gets the assist from the corner. How welcome is it, by the way, having a player on the pitch again who can actually put in a decent set piece delivery? I know a lot has been made of Charlie Adams' tenure as a set piece coach, but in fairness to him, we haven't really had a chance to see his tactics work with our first choice set piece taker yet. So maybe a bit of the benefit of the doubt with that. I don't know, but yeah, I'm sure that's something that will be looked at in the summer. But yeah, McNeil, fantastic. I thought he had a really, really good game. I've been really impressed with him since he came back, and I'm feeling quite confident at the moment that he's going to have a lot to offer in the Moyes system going forward. And then in Die. It seems very clear to me that he's not at full fitness. Just wasn't involved in the game today at all when he came on. Wadley was really quiet, really isolated, and barely had a touch. I don't think, to be honest, I can't really remember him getting on the ball at all. To be honest, which is very unlike him and annoying and frustrating because he's been one of our better players this season by far, and I'm sure there's a lot more to come from him going forward. And then I'll also briefly mention Timo Abunam as well, who I thought was absolutely brilliant. Um, and again, he's been a player that a few fans have turned on in recent weeks when he's been coming on. Haven't had some great cameo appearances, it's got to be said, but I thought today he was excellent. When he was first brought on, he started a bit further forward, so there wasn't too much defensive responsibility for him, which I think maybe suited him a bit, allowed him to grow into the game with a bit less responsibility. But once he was pushed back after Ghana went off at the end, he continued to do the same work, won so many really important interceptions, and just killed any chance of Fulham getting back into the game, which is exactly what you want from a substitute in that position. And then, yeah, Coleman and Calvert-Lewin weren't on the pitch long enough to give them a proper assessment of their game, I think. But it's just great to see Coleman still in an Everton shirt, isn't it? I do feel it's probably one of his last games in an Everton shirt, which is sad. It's sad that his career's coming to an end like this, but I think of all the players in our squad, he's the one we want to see involved most on Sunday. So I imagine today was a chance to get a little more sharpness in his tank, and even if it's just like the first half on Sunday, I don't think anyone deserves to lead out that team more than him on Sunday. So yeah, fingers crossed for that one. And then yeah, Calvert-Lewin gets a few more minutes in the tank. Didn't really have a chance to get involved. Did have a chance at the end, to be fair, didn't he? Which I thought he was quite unlucky. I thought it was a good save from Leonard, to be fair. Quite a well worked move, good pass from Ashley Young, and would have been nice for him to get a goal and get a bit more confidence in him. But when I don't think we're in a position to ask for too much more today. It was a really positive performance, wasn't it? So, but yeah, on that note, yeah, please do be like if you enjoyed. Comment below, give me your ratings and your thoughts. I'm sure there'll be a few things that will divide opinion that I've said in this video, even after a win. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. Subscribe to the Toffee Blues channel for more Everton content, and we will see you in the next video. Up the Toffees.